Hello everybody, welcome to The Take. I'm your host Krishna Mano, and I'm so excited to welcome you to a new year of The Take. In our first episode of the third season in 2022, I will be interviewing the senior U.S. Senator from Michigan, chairwoman of the Senate Democratic Policy Committee, and member of the U.S. Congress since 1997. Please welcome Senator Debbie Stabenow. Senator Stabenow, thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. It's an honor to have this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Krishna. I'm very impressed with what you're doing.
You've had a long journey in politics, starting as a Michigan State representative in 1979 to becoming the first female senator from Michigan in 2000. What was the inspiration that got you interested in running for public office in the first place?
I grew up in a small town in Michigan, in Clare, which is the middle, sort of the beginning of the north in the lower peninsula of Michigan. And my family wasn't involved in politics, but they were very, very involved in the community. And we were very involved in our church, United Methodist Church, and doing a lot of things to help the community. My mom was director of nurses at the hospital. And so I was very much around healthcare and trying to help people, who had healthcare needs and so on. And my dad had a car dealership and was really involved in supporting the community. So I was always told that, by example, that we needed to give back, that it wasn't enough just to benefit from what was happening in the community, but we need to give back. And then when I went to college, I realized that really meant paying attention to politics and to government and to what was happening. And I was getting my master's degree at Michigan State when I was involved with a group that heard a presentation about the county commissioners trying to close the local nursing home, which at the time was the only nursing home that took low-income senior citizens. And with a background in healthcare through my mom, I decided I really wanted to get involved to try to save the nursing home. One thing led to another. I ended up leading that effort, and we saved the nursing home. But I was going to county commission meetings all the time, and then suddenly began to see, I was asking a lot of questions. Well, who are these people? What are they doing? How you become a county commissioner? And one thing led to another. And actually, before running for the state house, I ran against the county commissioner trying to close the nursing home and beat him. He referred to me as that young broad running against him. So I was 24 years old and I won, and then went on from there, and then running for the state house. But it really was not about growing up in politics per se, but it was about growing up with the values of helping, contributing, trying to make a difference, to make the community a better place for people.
Mm-hmm. And those values led to your career being so successful. And one of your main points has been expressing a clear concern about gun rights, which has earned you an A+ rating from the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, but an F rating from the NRA and the Gun Owners of America, which just shows the political divide that plagues your country now more than ever before. And you've shown your support for gun control after many shooting incidents, but one of the most recent school shootings occurred in our home state, Michigan, specifically the Oxford High School shooting. Now that this problem has truly hit home, what future steps can we take into creating a safer environment for students like me?
Krishna, this is so very important. And I have to say, having grown up in Clare, in a community where everybody hunts, my dad had guns that were not loaded and were locked and put away when we were growing up. And we were taught great respect for the outdoors, for hunting, for, the sport of shooting and hunting and so on. But the world has really changed, and we are seeing more and more efforts in a very complicated way to combine gun ownership now in a way that is in the midst of pitting people against each other, somehow guns becoming used in much, much more violent ways every day. And I have to say, I'm so sorry that you have to worry about somebody coming into the school. When I think about my young grandchildren having to go through these shooter, protection efforts and training in the school, it's horrifying. I don't want you to have to worry about that. And yet I know that it's very real right now. And so we've a number of things have to happen. We have to make sure that we have common sense background checks, so that people are purchasing guns that should be purchasing guns, and not with people with criminal records or with serious histories of mental illness and so on. We have to make sure that, in my mind, that the weapons that people have are not military assault weapons where you can have multiple rounds, large magazines that can kill many, many people in just a few minutes. These are not guns that my family uses to hunt. These are weapons designed to kill people. And we need to be, we need to not make these readily available to the average person when these are military assault weapons that have no purpose other than that. I think it's also very important that we have strong mental health services in the schools. I'm the leader on school-based health clinics and community mental health efforts, which we need to do. We have, where you are in Grand Rapids, Cherry Hill Health Center, which I work with closely, has been doing a lot of partnering with Grand Rapids public schools. I know there are at least 3 school-based health clinics that they run, and we need more. We need one in your school. We need to make sure that we're supporting young people when they have problems and challenges. In Oxford, we saw very clearly what was happening to this young man and his cries for help and his drawings and so on, which made it very clear there was a serious mental illness involved, along with whatever else was happening. So we need to be making sure we're reaching out and supporting parents and young people and so on with that as well. And then I think we've got to deal more broadly with something I didn't have to deal with in school because we didn't have social media like you do, but all the issues around bullying, all the issues around social media right now that make it so challenging for young people, so easy to criticize, so easy to say mean, ugly things and to pit people against each other. In a way that takes away from our efforts to support each other. We need to be, you need to be able to have fun and enjoy school and know that you have the support of friends and people around you. And there's just so many pressures coming at you right now that we as adults need to be more responsible for addressing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if this is just me, but I can't have a conversation without bringing up something about climate change, explaining why the environmentalist side of me took over for the very first episode of this talk show. But it's clear that the impact of climate change is becoming more evident with the increasing frequency of wildfires, droughts, and storms. Lawmakers have proposed many solutions, but clearly we need a stronger, more permanent one, as environmental problems are more prevalent than ever before. What exactly have we been doing wrong, and what is the correct way to go about this issue?
Well, it's existential. This is really about whether we're going to be able to survive and thrive as a country, as a globe. And first and foremost, we have seen the interests of the polluters, coal and oil and so on, for decades now, realizing that if people really understood the impact of using fossil fuels, that we would turn to cleaner energies. And they didn't want that to happen. And so they've spent billions and billions of dollars trying to convince us that the climate crisis wasn't real. Well, it is real, and we're seeing it right in front of our face right now. We now know that the Great Lakes are warming faster than the oceans. We know that Lake Superior is one of the top 5 fastest warming lakes in the world. And we are seeing it affect our economy, agriculture. We're seeing it affect every part of our lives. And so we have to act. We should have already been acting. I'm leading the efforts on electric vehicles. We need to be driving great vehicles that don't emit pollution, carbon pollution. And that, by the way, also creates jobs. We have the capacity to use wind and solar and geothermal and other forms of clean energy that will also create jobs for Michigan. 1/3 of the polysilicon used for the building of solar panels is actually in Michigan, in Midland, Michigan. And so we need to build on that. Agriculture and forestry. There's much that we can do about keeping carbon in the soil, doing a better job of protecting forests, stopping large deforestations that are sending tons and tons and tons of carbon into the air. Trees hold carbon. That's what they do. And so there's a lot of things that we can do that also create jobs, but also we're going to be able to guarantee that we have a quality of life, that we have a country and a planet that you're going to be able to live in, and that your kids and grandkids are going to be able to live in.
And there are currently many efforts in the federal government and many state governments to suppress voters' rights. And recently there was a vote in Congress about the voting rights bill. So could you please give us a deeper overview of what is going on right now and what we can do to stop these efforts of undermining American democracy?
This is very serious. We have to all stand up together and protect our freedom to vote under the American Constitution. In 2018, in Michigan, almost 2/3 of the voters voted to give us more choices on voting. No excuse absentee ballot voting, so you could vote early, same day voter registration, other things that actually helped people in the middle of the pandemic in 2020 have the largest voter turnout in the history of Michigan ever, which was great. But what's happening right now, and this goes back to that 2020 election, the person who lost the election, the former president, did not accept his loss. Nobody likes a loss. I've won, I've lost. It's not fun to lose. But he decided that he was going to do everything possible to stop certifying the vote, the presidential vote. So January 6th, I was there at the Capitol when there were violent insurrectionists who came in. At least 5 police officers lost their lives and others lost their lives in an attempt to stop the legal certification of the vote of the public in the United States of America. But it wasn't enough to do that. They now have a concerted effort. It's a plan all across the country, including in Michigan. 19 states had passed changes to restrict our freedom to vote. So instead of saying, gee, we lost, we're going to go out and convince people we're the right folks to vote for, and we're going to do a better job of doing that, they just want to make it harder for people to vote. So in Michigan, it's really important right now that we are aware that there are petitions out that folks are trying to get signed. And if they get enough signatures, the legislature, the Republican majority in the legislature, is going to adopt the signatures there. The governor, under a provision that they're using, can't veto it. And they're going to be able to basically make it harder to vote, take away people's freedom to vote. And so first thing is, don't sign those petitions. Tell your folks, tell everybody not to sign the petitions. And then to really speak out about what we need to do together to guarantee that as many people as possible of every age have the right to vote. It's about our freedom under the Constitution. And we can disagree. We can, have differences of ideas. That's what America is based on. But we all have a right to have our voice heard. and that is through our vote. And there shouldn't be efforts to restrict certain people. For instance, in some of the states, they're saying voter ID, you could use a hunting license for voter ID, but not a college student ID. Well, that's not even subtle in terms of the effort they're trying to stop students from voting. So we've got to make sure in Michigan that doesn't happen. So we don't want these petitions that are out right now to get enough signatures to pass. And then we want to make sure going forward that there aren't efforts to restrict our freedom to vote.
And it's so sad to see that this constitutional right, as you were talking about, this freedom to vote is like a prestigious American ideal. It's something that people all across the world look up to. And the people trying to repeal it are the very same people who were elected because of that same system.
It's crazy, actually. I mean, we have a situation where a former president, President Trump, says that his election was stolen. And yet on the same ballot, we had Democrats elected to Congress, Republicans elected to Congress, Democrats elected the state House and Senate, Republicans elected, and nobody's saying that their elections were stolen. Why is it that only one was stolen? Why does every other election that happened, why are they all valid and accurate, but only one? The reality is we have someone who doesn't like the results, and unfortunately has started a very dangerous movement that is something we need to be very serious about stopping.
Mm-hmm. And something softer that many people don't know about you is that you were in a cameo role in the 2016 movie Batman vs. Superman. I've always been a large fan of superheroes, so what was it like to have a part in the movie?
I have to tell you, Krishna, this was on my bucket list. It was so much fun. They did a lot of the filming in Michigan, and the filming, the part I was in, was actually filmed on Michigan State University's campus. It was Lex Luthor's home. They used the art museum, the Broad Art Museum. And I had a very, very, very small role. If you blink, you miss me. But it still took 2 days. I was there from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning for 2 days, and ended up, just being in a very small role at a reception that was being held. But it brought Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman all together in sort of the pivotal initial scene. And so I was the governor of Metropolis, and I played a very, very minor role, but it was a lot of fun.
And like you were saying earlier with the voting rights, America is currently at a time where the entire country is divided, whether it be politically motivated or not. And a big reason why we have reached this stage is because time and time again, we see band-aid solutions to a problem that requires intricate and more permanent fixes. So what can children like me do to help bring America back together?
I think, first of all, being aware of this moment, being aware of our history and the roles and responsibilities we have. If you go back and listen to the great debates of our founders, I'm a great fan of Alexander Hamilton, not only the Broadway play, but all the efforts he talked about majority rule and what it means under the Constitution. But then taking an interest in what's happening today, pushing all of us as adults, getting involved in campaigns of people that you believe will do the right thing, speaking out about the climate crisis, and really not letting us as adults continue to create this division and poison. Don't accept it. Don't accept it. It should not be this way. It does not have to be this way. You deserve better than what is happening right now. And I think all of you can step in and really speak to what we need to do as a country to be able to bring us all together.
Thank you so much for joining us in today's episode and sharing your inspiring insight. And Senator, I really hope that we get the chance to talk to each other sometime in the future.
Absolutely. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.